So now it's Indiana, Georgia, and parts of Arizona, including Memphis, Tennessee, 100,000 without power now. That's not even the crazy part. Say the only thing that has power is Elon Musk's data center. Now, if you think that's a coincidence, you on the wrong side, bro. They blaming it on a tornado, like they don't geoengineer all weather.
What's up with y'all? I'm gonna make this video quick, but I'm finna tell y'all exactly what they about to do. So, if y'all didn't hear, Gary, Indiana is blackout. They've had no power for the last 8 days. They're probably not gonna have power for the next 30 days. This is what they're trying to do. We're gonna have a blackout. Just like COVID, The Simpsons predicted a blackout. We're gonna have a blackout. I'm telling y'all this shit right now too. But they're gonna say that it was from Iran, even though it wasn't from them. It's gonna be from us. The government's gonna do it from within. They're gonna try to save power and all this bullshit. But the scariest part is this. Indiana is really under like a purge law. Like it's like the purge out there. So niggas is breaking in people's houses, niggas is killing people for generators.
My name is Jarius Adams, and here's what you need to know. You remember when we talked about residents of Gary, Indiana going more than 2 weeks without power? Well, they still don't have power, but the same thing is happening in Memphis, Tennessee. A severe storm came through Memphis this weekend with winds up to 60 miles an hour. It impacted 130,000 Memphis light, gas, and water customers. And even this Sunday, there's 100,000 people that are still impacted without electricity. The Memphis Light, Gas, and Water says that this is a multi-day project, and they said that full restoration won't happen until probably this Thursday. That's more than a multi-day. That's almost a week. Can you imagine the things that are needed? Now, they said they're prioritizing treatment plants and hospitals and places that, you know, quote unquote, need it faster. But there are folks that are at home on ventilators and need breathing treatments and things that need to be plugged up to electricity. This is really dangerous. It's dangerous. And it's seeing it in so many predominantly black communities. First Gary, Indiana, now Memphis, Tennessee, and it seems like they're ongoing. We have to have a conversation about emergency response or maybe preventative measures, because this can't continue to happen. And the question may be, are communities prepared for extreme weather events? Because losing power is not just an inconvenience. You're talking about refrigeration, medical equipment, the things people need, air conditioning, right? Memphis, Tennessee in the summertime, I'm from Mississippi, I know it is hot. Folks need air. And having to wait almost a week to have your electricity restored is kind of ridiculous, especially by a company that I'm sure if you're late paying your bill, your electricity will be cut off. So stay tuned. We're going to follow for more.
So they tell you it's heat waves or aging infrastructure, but these blackouts have nothing to do with that. They're dry runs. They're testing us. They're testing the panic, testing how fast the looting starts. They're intentionally shutting off grids to study human behavior, but the data they're collecting isn't for safety, it's for control. One of these days, the power will not come back on in an hour. It won't come back in a week. We are looking at a 6-month grid collapse. No pumps for water, no refrigeration, no fuel, no power. But why are they doing this? Well, the first reason is a demographic reset and depopulation. They want a massive reduction in population. Without electricity, the elderly, the sick, and the vulnerable go first. They want less resources being spent on people and more for the elites. Do you guys remember that article talking about how 90% of people won't survive a 1-year power outage? Think about that. 2, maybe they want economic erasure. A 6-month blackout can happen and they can say your bank money was completely wiped out, your savings were wiped out. The goal is to eliminate personal financial independence. If you have no traditional savings, you become entirely dependent on the state for survival, making you much easier to control. Then you'll have no choice but to accept the new digital currency and a universal basic income. 3, total dependence. They want you so desperate for survival that you accept anything that they offer. Microchips, digital IDs, mandatory relocation, all that stuff. Prepare now while you still have the time. So seeds, ammo, water filters, heats, backup power, and of course knowledge in your hands, physical books.
Some earthquakes are man-made. You ever heard of a tectonic discharger? It's a weapon that has an official patent that creates earthquakes. The year after this was created in 2010, there was the most 7.0 magnitude earthquakes ever recorded. It's a machine designed to trigger controlled ground movement. It transmits shock vibrations into fault lines at specific frequencies, which then sets it off. So it's not just clouds they can mess with, it's also the ground. I'm not sure how someone in their right mind can think that this was a good invention.
Shalom Israel. First and foremost, I do want to give all praises, all honor, and all glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rakakadash, the warrants the apostles and else great millstone for teaching us this true peace and blessings to the whole collective of Israel. Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father in Hebrew, by Hashem is the name, and Yahweh Shai is the name of. Then we got some background lesson, and as you see within the title, look around. This is it, and I'm gonna be putting a lot of videos before you get to this point right here. So it'll be like more, I guess high production, type of lesson. Because I did want to do a sit down with everything that's happening and taking place, as you've been seeing over there in Indiana, dealing with all the blackouts. That's been over 2 weeks now, going on more. Now you have over there in I believe Memphis, over there in Tennessee. And hey, that's the spirit, because we said that this would trickle on down to these other states. That situation that's happening over there in Indiana is nothing but a trial run, an experiment, an example for what is getting ready to unfold, for all of America, for all these other states, because they already have been planting the seeds as to what's getting ready to unfold. Dealing with cyber attacks, EMPs, solar flares, whatever else that they are, pointing the finger, and really they're, planting the seeds. So when these things do happen, the excuse is already made. So when it does happen, people, they point the finger. It was this, it was that. Not knowing this devil, Esau, had a hand in it. As you see with this situation ultimately, which a lot of people are beginning to, call out, all these data centers, which you have over there in Indiana. I believe there's over like 100 plus that are supposed to be made. I believe it's over in the 80s, if not the actual hundreds, with how many that are over there. So that is also playing a role, which people are also saying that those are being used to charge and power their bunkers that they have, which that could also be a thing, because this devil does have bunkers and these underground cities, different things that he's going to try to flee to. So that can most definitely play a role. But this devil most definitely has a hand in it, which you're seeing they're blaming it on storms as to what knocked down the grid over there. As you're all seeing, dealing with Tennessee, this, what they're also blaming it on a storm. So, and this devil also has these satellites and these different type of weaponry able to manipulate and alter the weather. They show you that in the movie Geostorm, where they're able to, they call it cloud seeding, which that's also a real thing to do in this time. But in that movie, they're able to disperse a hurricane and crank up a storm to levels it's not usually seen at. But this devil actually has that type of technology. But do have a couple of scriptures I do want to grab. Do want to install the somewhat of an intro. Like I'm gonna be putting various other videos as to what's getting ready, or not what's getting, but the things that are happening right now. So see the Apocrypha, kicking off with 2 Ezra chapter 9 and verse 1. And it says, "He answered me then and said, Measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou see past lines pass, which I have told thee before." Now I'll just read this on down, and I'll get to the main point, which is going to be verse 1. But the rest is also good. "And then shalt thou understand that it is the same time when the highest will begin to the visit world which he made, which can be by the way of the Lord Yahweh Shai. Therefore, when you've seen earthquakes and upwards of the people in the world, then shalt thou understand that Most High spake those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning." Verse 5, "For like as all that is made in the world had the beginning and an end, and the end is manifest, even so the times also the highest have plain beginnings and wonders and powerful works and endings and effects and signs." And we are seeing those effects and signs, which is, what's dealing with the main point of listening. Look around you. This is it. With everything that's unfolding, taking place, there's no coincidence. You're seeing all these things happening, and I just made a lesson. I want to say yesterday, in fact, the other day before that, I went to a lesson where they're talking about up to 18-month blackouts, and you can imagine how devastating that would be. But you already have people talking about the chaos that's unfolding over there in Indiana, with the break-ins and people likening it unto the purge. And going to show y'all going to realize that prophets have been among you, warning and telling you of these things to come. We've been saying this for years, starting with the apostles and elders down over the Great Millstone, that these are the type of times that you're going to unfold. They didn't make those movies for nothing. Civil War, another good example. That's the things you're getting ready to see, which I believe came across a video, which I'll probably put it right here, but of Trump getting ready to declare an emergency or a meeting, whatever the case may be, because Trump ain't going anywhere. For those that want to vote and want to kick him out of office, and there may not be another vote. With everything that's happening, especially the Iran situation and how that's playing out. So prophecy's rolling. But it's also getting to these other scriptures. It's maybe a longer type of lesson. That's why I wanted to do a sit down. A lot of scriptures I wanted to grab. Alright, so Matthew 24, and I'm going to start on verse 3. And it says, "And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be sign of thy coming, and of the end of the world?" And also this background audio is not too loud. But it says, let's get to the last point. What should be the sign of thy coming, and of the end of the world? So let's list off those signs that we would see and that would take place before Lord Yahushua will return. So it's further going to show, just laying out the time frame of where we're at. And Yahushua answered and said to them, Take heed that no one deceive you, for many shall come in name, saying, I am anointed, and shall deceive many. That's why you also be careful where who you listen to, who you're learning from. And really, it should be made clear as to who Yahweh Shai is really dealing with. With who your true teachers are. We're going to start with the apostles and elders down over the Great Millstone. That's where the 100% truth resides. Verse 6, and you should hear of wars and rumors of wars. That's what we are seeing. So having talks of, other nations getting involved, and you also have been seeing, America pretty much saying NATO's going to be, no more, which you already kind of, seen that, which is also dealing with prophecy, but especially these past couple months. We also had Trump wanting to take Greenland, and pretty much said he's going to take it by force by any means. And he also, I believe, got Greenland to say that if they did this, pretty much NATO would be no more, because if you did this to your own ally, imagine what your other supposed allies would feel or think, knowing that you just took one of your own out. But you had Trump to go on to say recently, which let's go into. Well, he's pretty much said, what does NATO do? Pretty much saying America carries everything, does everything, so why do they need to be a part of it? Pretty much. But it's going to show prophecy is being fulfilled, it's speaking, and you can't stop it. Let's see verse 7. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. May you listen, I believe just earlier today, dealing with these earthquakes in diverse places. Verse 8. All these are the beginning of sorrows, and begin another translation as it goes to the beginning of those birth pains. Jump to Luke 21. I'm going to get verse 11 and also jump to verse 25. This is Luke 21:11. It's out the King James. No, let's start at verse 10. Or actually, it's just straight to the point, verse 11. And great earthquakes shall be in diverse places, and famines, and pestilences, and fearful sights, and great signs shall it be from heaven. So you also see these various signs within the heavens, within the sky, space. As you've seen, mass chariot sightings. And also deal with these eclipses, which one just took place recently, that solar eclipse. And it's not to be glossed over. Gotta add in the background. Let's see. We jump to verse 25 now. And it says, and there should be signs in the sun and the moon and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations, with perplexity the sea and the waves roaring. So dealing with that point once again, dealing with these signs in the heavens. It says, and upon the earth distress of nations, with perplexity the sea and the waves roaring. Verse 26, men's heart failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming in the earth. For the power of heaven shall be shaken. Who's going to be shook? They're going to be afraid, terrified. Especially with everything that's taking place and playing out. So we're going to have people bugging out with everything that's taking place. As we already have, people doing now. People are panicking, especially dealing with this situation. Over there in Indiana, now Memphis. And soon, a lot more, states. Made a lesson just the other day, titled, coming to a city near you. So we have been giving the warning, especially dealing with these blackouts. Go on any brother's channel, I'm sure you'll find a lesson dealing with that going years back. I have a few myself going into it. They have been telling you to your face, speaking of the devil, dealing with his shows, his movies, even The Simpsons, they have a blackout in that show. Going to predictive programming. And people say, oh, Simpsons predicted it. No, they put their plans in it. Which is going to that predictive programming and things that they are wanting to do, showing off their plans, because that's their way of telling you. Okay, let's see. Verse 27, and then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. The Son of Man being our Lord Yahweh Shai. Verse 28, and when these things begin to come pass, then look up and lift your heads for your redemption. Draw not, we're almost out of here. Then at that point, you look around you. This is it. And if it's still foggy and unclear to you, you still can't perceive and see the things that are happening as we speak, there's a problem. Jump to another scriptures, dealing with 2nd Ezra now. Go back to the Apocrypha. 2nd Ezra 15 and 19. Now honestly, I should probably get the 15th verse or the 11th verse before I get that, which is what I'll do. Alright, this is 2nd Ezra 15 and 11. Like seeing if I could get another scripture right there. But this is the main point. It says, but I'll bring them with a mighty hand. Or it's like verse 10. No, verse 11 is good. Okay. And it says, but I'll bring them with a mighty hand and stretched out arm and smite Egypt with plagues as before and will destroy all the land thereof. And when it says Egypt here, it's not speaking of ancient Egypt, but modern day Egypt, which is Babylon the Great, aka America. You can further get that in Revelation, the 11th chapter, dealing with America, aka Babylon the Great, being spiritually Sodom and Egypt. Now, verse 12. Now, who's bringing out these plagues, these pestilences, these judgments that you are seeing? So ultimately, it's all due to Yahweh Shemel Shai that these things are happening. However, the Lord is doing it, right? Using Esau, Edom, and his technology to, do other things, especially deal with this situation. This devil most definitely has his hand in it, because before this, I was watching one of the brothers in GMS Kansas City. He made a point to where that river is next to Chicago and next to over there in Indiana. And if it was dealing with storms, how is Chicago not being affected one bit? And it's just across the river. So going to show it was a targeted attack. And I believe I'm put a video before all this, but dealing with how Jake is predominantly within a lot of those areas that you are seeing. So especially gonna show who the target is and who the devils want to take out. This devil especially doing these things in order to gain the upper hand. So when people are seeing absolute chaos, all hell breaking loose, when chaos is erupting, people are going to look and seek for a solution for things to get better for things. They'll go back to so-called normal full order. But that's going to come at a price. I'm putting up a lot of videos, so go to tying together. Could be came across another one, and those are all put these videos I'm referencing within the beginning or right here. But pretty much speaking on how the money that you had within these banks, when an EMP attack goes down, when the grid shuts down, how all that's going to be pretty much wiped. And this is how the devil's going to come in as that so-called hero with the solution, and which is going to this great reset this devil is pushing for, to establish and usher in this beast system, which is ultimately going to run through that MOTB, which is the RFID CHIP. But you're going to see a lot of people's banks accounts wiped clean, and you're going to have the devil incentivized to, hey, if you take this Karak, you take this MOTB, this RFID CHIP, then you can get all that back, and some and more. Because everything needs to be locked behind a paywall, just like you have in video games. If you want to bypass or get to a certain level, something you have to pay for and buy the season pass, or buy the DLC, which will be another map or weapons, whatever the case may be. And people that don't get it, you're unable to access those things, those benefits, So once these necessities are taken away, once people's comforts are stripped away, they're going to be wanting to do anything and everything to get it back, just as we've seen back in 2020, which was once again nothing but an example for what this devil is getting ready to do with this MOTB. As you saw with the unrighteous decrees, you saw with the mask mandates, you saw you needed a green pass to enter a plane. They held checkpoints. You needed to have it at certain jobs. And you saw how people were pushing for people to be fined, jailed, over not taking these things, for not wanting to get with it. But look at now. You're the crazy one. You're the bugged out one. They wanted to call us crazy. Look at you now. Now you are regretting your decision. Now you are regretting, the mocking and scoffing. As they're going to be, much more in these last days. People mocked and scoffed at the prophets, called us crazy. And y'all know what's coming to you. What's saying as you made the point, you were warned. Your own prophets have been among you, telling you of these things, especially dealing with this situation right now. It's dealing with these blackouts. We've been going into these things. So I got that. This is the second Ezra 15 and 15 now. That's where they get. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we can jump to verse 15. And it says, "For the sword and the destruction draw nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands, for there shall be sedition among men, and invading one of them shall regard their kings, noble princes, and the course that shall stand in their power." So dealing with that sedition among men that you're getting ready to see. That word sedition going to riot / rebellion. Especially with all hell breaking loose. You have people getting angry at these workers for not fixing, trying to alleviate these situations. You see over there in Indiana, you see in Memphis, which I came across a video, which I don't know if I have saved or not, but yeah, I think I do have it saved. I'll put that up. But dude brought up a point to where people were trying to fix the situation or try to get things back up and running. They were shot at, pretty much pushed away from trying to fix it or whatever's happening, because for what 14 weeks, not 14 weeks, but 2 weeks now. I was thinking 14 days. And it's still going, and nothing is fixed. So something is definitely up. Something is fishy. Your red flags, should be waving. But let's continue on. And it says in verse 17, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. So it's going to be shutting this place down, especially with absolute chaos, with all hell breaking loose. Especially in the midst of these blackouts, you're going to see a lot of those situations of people killing each other, homes being broken into, women being ravaged. This type of situation that you're going to see unfold. But then you're going to have this devil swoop in as a so-called hero, which is going into that order out of chaos. The devil will purposely cause a lot of these problems, have a hand in a lot of these situations, and then swoop in like Superman with the solution, with the problem solver. And with all hell breaking loose, with chaos erupting, people are going to look for these solutions. And this devil's going to swoop in, declare martial law, establish that total control. And people are going to be fine with it, with everything that has been taking place. Especially with these incentives that he's now going to be pushing, dealing with the Karagman, the MOTB. As they made that point, where you have people's, banks completely wiped and money very soon going to be useless. Post a video dealing with that. Dealing with the reels or whatever on here. It's all going to be useless. And the scripture going to, you're going to have people throwing their, cash in the air. And as you see with these apocalyptic movies, when chaos is erupting and in those apocalyptic times, what do they use the money for? As fuel for the fire, to keep the fire lit. That's just goes to show how worthless the dollar is going to be. As we already see various nations leaving the dollar behind. Dealing with the BRICS. It's like I keep trying to get the hair out of my face. So we got that. Let's jump to verse 19. Further into the point we just read. And actually, we can continue on verse 17. And it says, for because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. Going to men are going to be afraid. Now you get another scripture where they're going to have men, grabbing the loins, acting like women out here. That's how bad it's going to get. And why it's important to be under the hedge protection of Yahweh B'Shem Shai. Because without the Lord, especially in these times, you're through. It's plainly put. Like in Psalms 91, how this truth shall be that shield and buckler, but also how we're going to be under the Lord's wing, under His watch, under His protection, as you also get further scriptures dealing with that. How the Lord is rewarded of them that diligently seek Him. So the elect can be well taken care of. That's also another point. That could be another lesson. Dealing with the faith aspect of it. Because you have people that are afraid, and they're shook with all the things that are happening, taking place, not knowing what to do and what to think. They have faith and trust in the Lord, in Yahweh B'Shem Shai. The Lord's gonna do a great work. Miracles will be performed. Various scriptures going to the elect having abundance, being well kept. see if I finished off. Now jumping back to verse 19, which is the main point, it said, "Man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of lack of bread for great tribulation." That's what you are seeing over there in Indiana, and probably soon in Memphis, Tennessee. Which that just started, obviously, just yesterday. And they're having talks of they're going to be without power for over 10 plus days. So that is not a coincidence that you see, was Indiana, that happening. Now you're seeing it happen in Memphis. Don't be surprised you see it happen to these other states, and this devil uses the excuse, especially with the middle part of, U.S. Blaming it on the temperature and how hot it is, and the grid can't take that much power, and which the devil's planting the seeds. Excuse me. That's that right there. Let's get a second of 16 now. Like I said, I do have a decent amount of scriptures, so this is the 70th verse. And it says, "For there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord. They shall be like madmen, sparing none." The main point be like madmen, sparing none. Matthew 24:12, going to the love of many is waxing cold. These people are more agitated, more aggressive, no remorseful, type of spirit. People, as you already have, people resorting to drastic measures. Lootings and homes being broken into, people getting killed over lack of food. This is about to be, heightened on a different level. This is why it's important to take heed and repent, man. Seek Yahweh B'Shem El Shai now. You're getting, trying to push, the spirit of urgency, to seek the Lord. Repent. Because very soon the prophets will no longer be given the warnings. And it says, "For they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses." In verse 73, going to the faith aspect. "Then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as gold in the fire." Because you have brothers that are, maybe in those particular areas that maybe faced, with that blackout. Especially with what's soon to come and everything this devil's getting ready to do. Hey, we're gonna be tried, we're gonna be tested, but most times they made a point, the Lord is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. The Lord is going to be with us. Again, the Lord shall, hold thy right hand. He shall help thee. So hey, keep the faith, man. And this is why you get Isaiah 33:6, "How wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times." So having this truth, this wisdom and knowledge keeps us stable. It keeps us grounded. Having that strong and firm foundation to get in, Matthew 7. Building your house upon a rock, which that rock being Yahweh Shai. It being the chief cornerstone. So you have people bugging out, panic buying. A lot of videos is that people panic buying, things now. It sure doesn't hurt to, stock up on things that you need and, be, set, having water and whatever else. Brother made that point also, having med kits and, basic things that you need. There's also to a point to where if you're overdoing it, doom prepping, and you should be doom prepping in the spirit, getting right with the Lord. Because Yahweh B'Shem Shai is the one to defend us and protect us in the coming times, man. But still, at that point, sure, it doesn't hurt to stock up and get the things that you need. But like I said, there's a point. You have people that stock up on years, worth of food. The Lord have to where you're not even at your spot. When shit hits the fan, when things go down. And really, a lot of those spots are going to be used for the elect. And again, it's about how, shall be even, pilgrims upon the earth be on the move. So we're going to have it to where, a bird, guides you to, a bunker or a spot. Or a little, what do they call it? I was going to say a lookout, but, some places, secluded. We say the Lord got us. And so we hope and pray that we're of that hopeful elect. Let's see, that's the point right there. And jumping back a couple verses, verse 17. And it says, woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? So further going to show just how bad it's going to get out here. How very real it is going to get. Because it's one thing to speak on these things and talk about it, but it's going to be a whole other story when you're actually in the midst of these situations where you have many Israelites end up buckling under that pressure and giving in, turning to Esau, because you're going to have this devil, and he's going to use these situations to his advantage because he wants you to rely upon him. But that's going to come at a price, which is ultimately going to be you needing to have that MOTB, that charagma. And that's also another scripture actually have already dealing with Isaiah, the 30th chapter. Dealing with how your trust in this place and be your downfall. So when chaos is erupting, all these things are happening, it's devil be holding, what do they call it? Food drives, or have people lining up to get food. And guess what? Sure, it may be free at first, but it's gonna come at a price. However long it may go, or the case may be. Well, so they're talking about 18 months, which I don't think will be that long, for what this the devil's talking about, or his plans. But you're most definitely gonna see this devil, draw it out to get the reaction he wants in order to be fully justified in what he's getting ready to do. Because he wants that total control. He wants that chaos to, so he can swoop in. Martial law declared. Now you have troops, at every street pretty much. Checkpoints being held, curfews being held. These are the types of things that you're going to see, and as well, they're especially going to heavily push and promote the MOTB, to know your location and know your thoughts. That's also another thing that they're pushing now, dealing with the the Neuralink, which even you have cars now, or you have a facial recognition system to where if you get in the car and it sees that you're in a bad mood or you're not in a state to be driving, it won't start the car. That's why they're especially pushing these electronic vehicles, like you see with Tesla. Able to put a limiter on that to where how far you can go, make it a certain radius to where if you pass the line, the car stops. Especially dealing with this EMP or solar flare, whatever that may cause the grid to go down, it's going to heavily affect those particular types of vehicles to where people aren't able to use them. They show you that in that one Netflix movie, which I still haven't watched it, but there's one particular scene where there's a highway just full of Teslas. And that's also actually another good point, which people are actually saying, it looks like what do they call it, The Walking Dead. People leaving their cars on the highway, and it looks like let's say like a zombie movie, or The Walking Dead, as it brought up, dealing with those points. But it's dealing with how scary it looks. People having to abandon their cars on the streets and highways, and so that's the spirit about that movie right there, dealing with the Teslas all being abandoned, and there's a full highway full of them in that particular scene. And it's like kind of randomly just flowing through the spirit. But the 2nd of 16 and verse 18, right, verse 17, right, the beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the power shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils, what shall do when these evils shall come? Behold, famine and plague and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. And also jump to verse 21. And it says, behold, victuals shall be so good, cheap on earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case. Right now, people are comfortable. They are getting, cozy while these things are growing right under your nose. And people want to, plug the ears and say, la, la, la. They don't want to hear the reality of things, with what's happening and really what's getting ready to unfold. It's good going to our heads in times that have never been seen before. Like I said, it's where you have, the bread and circus to keep people entertained, to keep people's eyes elsewhere, distracted, and other things. While you have situations like over the Indiana, Memphis, especially with the Indiana situation, have had people talking about that for weeks. The only reason you hear about it is because people on TikTok or Instagram posting videos of what's happening over there, or people in the situation themselves posting about it. What the chaos is happening over there. The comments bring it up to where it's Jake, predominantly in those areas, and the reason why it's not being put on the news, and AI data centers all over there. Which ones that could be playing a role in it, sapping the power. Talking about over 100 plus going to be made over there, 150 or something like that. Put over there. So you must definitely see how that will play a role in it. And how else do you think they're especially preparing for this beast system? What these AI data centers are going to be used for to run all these RFID chips. That's another thing, So we got that. And we can actually get to continue on with that. For many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall this sword destroy. And the dead shall be cast out as dung, and shall be no man to comfort them, for the earth shall be wasted, and the cities shall be cast down. Verse 27 jumps just straight to the point. So that one man shall desire to see another, and to hear his voice. For his city there shall be 10 left, and 2 of the field shall hide themselves in thick rows in the clefts of the rocks. So going to, for example, if you've seen the movie I Am Legend, with Will Smith, really good movie. This example, how you see he's by himself and desiring to hear another and see another person. Especially with the drafts that you're getting ready to soon see take place. So you're also going to see Isaiah 4:1. There's going to be a lack of men. What is that? 7 women shall take hold of 1 man. Number 7 being completion, so it would be any amount of women. But that's how also speak too fast. That's how this especially going to play a role in that, dealing with the drafts and the lack of men that are going to be out here. And we're going to have women seeking for a man, specifically a man of the Lord. Alright, I'm on to the last couple scripts that I have. This is 2 Timothy. Gotta get that. Alright, this is 2 Timothy chapter 3 verse 1. This is this also then the last days perilous times shall come. So other translations go into difficult, troublesome, and that's plain. Perilous times shall come. So again, other scriptures to be vigilant, be circumspect, because the days are evil. Matthew 24:12 once again about earlier, how the love of many shall wax cold. Jump to Amos. Slovakia there for a minute. Alright, let's pick Amos. This would be chapter 5. Chapter 5 and verse 18, so like, yeah, struggle to find that one. But it says, woe unto you that desire the day of the Lord. To what end is it for you? The day of the Lord is darkness and not light. So, especially going into just how bad it's going to get out here. For example, you see within these movies, or people look throughout history, and they'll point to that certain period of time and say that was a dark time. That was some heavy, something terrible that took place or happened, and it's gonna be this time, in live action. One more time from the top. Woe unto you that desire the day of the Lord. To what end is it for you? The day of the Lord is darkness and not light. Verse 19 is also good. As if a man did flee from a lion and a bear met him, or went to the house and leaned his hand on the wall, and a serpent bit him. So you're gonna constantly run into problems, difficulties, troubles. Just when you think you caught a break, put your hand on the wall, catch your breath, bit by a snake. More troubles. Verse 20, shall not the day of the Lord be darkness and not light, even very dark and no brightness in it? As we're especially seeing dealing with these blackouts, and as you get in the scriptures, how Lord would send plagues upon Egypt as before. And you had darkness was sent upon those Egyptians back then. And the Lord should do it, they say, we're here in a different way. In this time. So we got that. Let's get Ecclesiastes now. Alright, this is Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes 12 and 3 through 8, or 3 through 4. And it says, in the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease because they are very few, and those that look at the windows be darkened. So you have businesses shutting down, people losing their jobs. You see with these mass layoffs that have been happening over these few years, and especially as of late. But especially dealing with these blackouts. When you have lootings take place, especially dealing with these home-owned businesses, which is something this devil especially targeted back in 2020. What this devil wants to force you to rely upon it. And which is come at a price. And the doors shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the dogs of music shall be brought low. Second Ezra, and I got 2 more scripts after that. This is a Second Ezra 6, and jumping to 22. And it says, and suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown, the full storehouse shall suddenly be found empty. See if I could have got anything else, but that's the main point. As I made that point, you have people panic buying, especially dealing with this now Memphis. People may see that as it may happen to them, and people panic buying, stocking up on goods, people fighting over good. You've seen this before. For example, you've seen with Black Friday, or how it used to be, where people would nearly kill each other over a flat screen TV. So imagine when it comes to food, when people are starving, when people are trying to prepare for what's to come. This is why Hey, the Lord's gonna provide for us, man. Find ways for us to eat and to be safe in the midst of absolute chaos when all hell is breaking loose. And you gotta have faith. You gotta believe. You trust you in the Lord. So there's that right there. And I'll get 2 more scriptures, and that'll be the point. So it's Isaiah. I brought this point up earlier. Isaiah 30. Jumps to verse 1. It says, "Woe to rebellious children, say the Lord, that take counsel but not me, and that are covered with a covering but not of my spirit, that may add sin to sin. That walk to go on to Egypt, and have not asked them out to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh, to trust in the shadow of Egypt." Verse 3 may point, "Therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame, and the trust in the shadow of Egypt be your confusion." Be your shame and confusion for trusting in this devil. Especially you Israelites that want to bow down to this beast system, that want to bow down to Esau, Edom, and take that Karag and MOTB. And Lord has something for you. Especially that those want to trust in this devil in general. But I brought that point earlier, how many Israelites want to take the so-called easy way out, want to choose so-called life, and reality you chose death. But this is the closing scripture. Go grab it real quick. This is book of Romans, chapter 13, and verse 11. And this is knowing the time that now is high time to wake out of sleep, for now is our salvation nearer than we believe. So it's closer than we think. I always like to make that point where I read it one more time. And that knowing the time now is high time to wake out of sleep, not physically but spiritually wake up, repent, open your eyes, turn back to the Lord. Because this is how you have on your alarm on your phone. It will only sound for so long, and then it will silence itself. That's what you can ready to see. Very soon, Lord's going to silence his prophets, remove them off the highways and byways, off the internet, to where you won't be able to obtain this truth any longer. It says, "Wake up, sleep, for now is salvation nearer than we believe." It's close. First scripture we got, 2 9:1, measured all the time diligently in itself, and we got various scriptures going to that point of measuring the times, listing off things that we would see, things that would take place before the hour shall return. Further going to show the time frame of where we're at and just how close we are to the end, and everything is getting ready to unfold. It's no coincidence you're seeing all these things happening. So don't be surprised when you see more cities or states begin to black out. Like we said, it's gonna trickle on down. And really, you can already see it on a much wider, grander scale. That's not but an experiment, a little test. They're nothing but lab rats. And seeing how you react, seeing what people do, seeing the amount of chaos that happens, and how long it takes for it to go off rails, or whatever the case may be. That's why you get in Psalm 17:13, "Hide me from the wicked, which is thy sword." But that's it right there. Lord's lesson is edifying. Those why I tie these points together. That's my ability to just flow into the spirit, and want to make it a longer type of lesson. A lot of scriptures that came to mind. I did come across a lot of videos, so I thought I'd jam pack it into one big lesson, and at least make it a more higher production type lesson. Cause I was just gonna show videos right here on the phone and then talk about it, but I think it'd be better if I just play all of them together. But don't want to ramble. I don't close out. Give all praise, all honor, and all glory to Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai Ba'Shem, Rakakdash, and the born of the apostles, Nels Great Millstone, 4 teachings is truth, peace and blessings to the whole of Israel, and Shalom, 6-1, Lord's will.